Hello viewers from wherever you're watching us from. You're watching QTV, the Gambia's first private TV station, and we are broadcasting from our studios here on Kairaba Avenue. My name is Aliou Cisse, your host for your weekly State of Affairs program. Well, the Central Bank of the Gambia is spearheading the establishment of the Gambia's first capital market here in the country at the request of the government of the Gambia to the Ministry of Finance and Economic Affairs. Well, last Friday, the Gambia's Vice President Mohamed B.S. Jallow presided over the official launching, also attended by the Central Bank Governor Buha Sedi and the Finance and Economic Affairs Minister Sidi Keita. According to them, the capital market is expected to enhance operations of the country's financial system. Well, joining me this week to discuss what this capital market is all about and what it seeks to achieve, I'm joined on the program by Dr. Paul Mendy, who is the Deputy Governor to Central Bank of the Gambia. Mr. Mendy, good to have you on the program, State of Affairs.
Thank you very much, Mr. Cisse. Good evening, viewers. It's a pleasure to be here. And indeed, as you rightly put it, the central bank is spearheading the launch of the capital market and its operations in this country.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mendy. To start with, what is a capital market?
Thank you once again. The capital market is a platform, or in the old days, you would say it's a place where you trade in financial instruments. It's no longer the case that it's just a place. But rather, let me put it this way, it's a platform for trading in financial instruments, but in this case, long-term instruments. And it's important to distinguish between short-term and long-term. Hence, reference occasionally, you hear people talk about money market and capital market. And in this country, we've had a money market for all these years, meaning we've had financial institutions, commercial banks that is, trading with central bank through the issuance of government short-term instruments, mainly treasury bills, for all these years. So the maturities of those instruments would usually be 3 months, 6 months, 1 year. And the financial institution intermediation process is also of short-term in nature, in that they mobilize short-term savings and lend short-term. So all is been short-term all the way. The difference this time is that we are launching a platform for trading in long-term instruments. And we can go into details of what all that means.
Yes, I was coming to that. What are these financial instruments you're talking about? Just for you to elaborate.
Usually they are referred to as equity or shares. Shares are units of ownership of an institution. But the trade in capital markets is not limited to just equity or shares. It also includes government bonds, which are debt instruments that the government issues to mobilize capital for government projects. So the most of the activities in capital markets are made up of these two main instruments. There are others, but for the purpose of this market, we are hoping to launch these two for now, meaning equity sales and government long-term bonds.
I would just like to clarify, like I said, it was launched last Friday by the Vice President, Mohamed B.S. Jallow.
Yes.
What does this launching actually mean? Does it mean the market is now open for business?
Yes, that's what it means. Although there are processes that will have to be fulfilled before we go to actual trading. This will take a few days or weeks. The launch means we have officially informed the public, because the public really would be the driving force behind the success of this market. Hence the need to engage the public. In the Honorable Governor's speech that day, on Friday, he did call for the participation of the public. And this is referring to Gambians in this country and Gambians in the diaspora, as well as non-Gambians, any investor for that matter, that would be interested in participating in the development of this country would take part in these investment processes. And it is really an opportunity. This is the first time it's ever happening. There are those who would say part of the infrastructure deficit in this country is partly because we've not had this opportunity for long-term investments, such as mobilization of long-term savings and long-term investments.
So when will it be open for business?
It's already open for business. What I meant by trading not having commenced, let's say today, it's only been 2 working days since the launch. Because eliminate the weekend out of the, from Friday to now, it's only been 2 working days. And the registration and applications are currently ongoing. You are aware of the Central Bank having a supervision house just on Kairaba Avenue.
Yeah.
There we have what we call the Securities and Exchange Commission. And there the application forms are available for people to come forward. And with your permission, if I may just go into a bit of the details of the nature of operations of this market within the Central Bank and why we are having it this way for now. It's important because the public needs to be aware. Somebody once told me, what is government's business in setting up?
We will come to that later. But for now, just give us a background. I mean, what are some of the key problems that you think this capital market will solve?
Oh, there are many. Yeah. There is this need for listed institutions to be able to mobilize capital. That's number one. Without that, you're aware most of our businesses in this country are small in size compared to elsewhere. Small in the sense that you usually have a sole proprietor owning their own business without inviting the participation of others. Therefore, they are not sharing risk with anyone to the extent that should there be issues, most of the time the old man passes away, the business also falls. Or maybe there will be wrangling within family and the business could run into difficulty. That will be eliminated once you have participation of other shareholders in ownership of that entity. The sharing of risk is a solution to that problem. And also there will be enhanced governance because there will now be full participation of other shareholders and therefore appointment of their board members to represent them. The governance of that institution is really enhanced in a big way compared to just a sole proprietor having the business and possibility of long-term existence of that entity quite reduced. I mean, there are other, if you are going to ask, there are other reasons why you need a capital market. It creates a business or a market for the shareholders and liquidity for that matter. So a capital market is actually providing about 3 to 4 main reasons why we have it. There is financial deepening role. There is the enhanced efficiency in that there will be price discovery in the operations of the market. There is also the fact that these long-term instruments are used to generate long-term capital and businesses will be thrive as a result of that. Businesses thrive a lot in this way. So the capital market is here to solve a number of problems. That continuity issue I referred to, mobilization of long-term capital and savings, even opening the country to investment by others from outside this country. Because if a market is functional well, it is it's a kind of barometer for the operations of a country and therefore would be evident to even outsiders that there is confidence in this market. There is opportunity. There are a number of opportunities to be exploited, and therefore the investors could come. So a number of reasons why we need this market. Another issue is there was this study by some experts who referred to the fact that capital markets enhance financial deepening, meaning the contribution, for instance, the size of market financial system is enhanced or increased. There will be increased economic activity, efficiency would be increased, liquidity is increased because there are so many other players within the market other than just the issuers of equity. And I think we'll get to that because the key players in the market, and this is why when the governor called for participation of the public in this market, the other day we had to explain this. There are a number of roles available to be played in this market by institutions and individuals. The institutions to start with, they are going to be issuers. They will be issuing shares. Investors will participate in buying those shares and owning institutions. For instance, there was a time some years ago when one of the institutions, one of the banks in this country was issuing shares and there was a big scramble to buy.
Exactly.
A lot of interest
we will get
generated.
We will get to how it works. Earlier on, you mentioned, I mean, what you said, the listed institutions.
Yes.
What are these listed institutions?
These are companies that come forward and declare their interest in participating in the market and issuing shares. So to be listed means You are now recognized as a public entity. You transition from being private to public through what we call an initial public offering. Once you transition and become public, meaning you are now open to be owned by anyone. You and me could buy shares and be part owners, so you are a shareholder. But there are other even ways why institutions should be listed or processes. Let me refer to the listing by direct introduction or just mere listing by introduction. These are processes where you are not just raising capital, you are not even looking for new capital, but you are giving the opportunity to the shareholders, existing shareholders, to be able to market their instruments. Should they be interested in selling at any time through the market, they will be able to do so. In the absence of a capital market, shareholders cannot sell. There is no avenue to go out and sell off should you wish to divest your investment to something else or exit one company and go to another. That opportunity will not be there. The market will not be there for it. But this market, capital market now, has solved all that problem. So owners of businesses can invite others to share their risk. There will be better governance. There will be enhanced liquidity in the market. Financial deepening is promoted.
You talk about the listed institution. Could you share with us how many are listed at the moment?
No. You know, the market is just 2 days old.
Yeah.
And I hasten to add that some institutions in this country are listed outside this market. Okay. They could seek dual listing, meaning they could also be listed in the Gambian market if they wish. But if they wanted, they could exit that market and come and be listed here as their primary listing market. But they are at liberty to remain listed there and be listed here also. At the moment, because it's just 2 days old, like I said, there are a set of forms to be completed. There are processes to be completed before they are actually formally listed. So those are ongoing at the moment.
So we can say for now,
trading has not commenced, but the market has opened.
Okay.
And a market, you see, those who struggle to understand capital market can just maybe compare it to a commodities market, like Albert market or Serekunda market. Why am I saying this? Because this is where buyers are many, sellers are many. You match them and they trade, they execute transactions. In the instruments market, this is financial capital market, the difference is that the commodities you buy, that is the instruments you buy, are to be held for long term. And the revenue you get from it is called dividend. You'll be paid dividend on an annual basis. Unlike the commodities market where you buy oranges or apples, you go and eat them and they are finished. Here, you are holding a whole set of financial instruments for the long term. In fact, until when you want to sell again. Otherwise, they are held indefinitely, and you would be earning revenue on them on a continuous basis. That's the difference.
Okay. I mean, let's now look at the different kinds of the capital markets. I mean, we understand there are various, there are different capital markets. Could you just share with us, I mean, what they are and give us the differences?
No. I think you are referring to what we call the primary market, yes, and the secondary market. The primary market is where new shares are issued. New shares in the sense that this is a company that is coming forward to say, I want to raise capital through the prospectus that they prepare. It is a document that will explain all the need for capital. Maybe I want to do a project in Bansang, and I'm raising, or anywhere in the country for that matter, I'm raising capital of X amount. We are looking to float X number of shares at a price of X. And so the investors will come forward and buy. Those are primary market issuance. Now, when those shares are now held by the shareholders, subsequently they may want to sell also. And those are done at the secondary market. Secondary market funds, when the funds sales are made, the money goes to the pocket of the investor. That is the shareholder. But the primary market activities, funds go to the company itself. Okay. So if there is a shareholder who wants to sell, it's now your asset, it's now your property, you go to secondary market and do so, and therefore you raise capital. And the funds are, this equity is now owned by a new shareholder. And it's important to refer to a role of registrar in this market. The registrars are companies or institutions that are created with a view to capturing on a continuous basis the existing shareholders of each company. Why is that important? Because when there is time for dividend payment, you need to know the actual holder of that equity at any given point in time. So the equity can be changing hands. The market will be keeping track. The registrar is keeping track of all that. At maturity, or at the, not maturity, sorry. Maturity refers to only those instruments that mature. Here, equity does not mature. The maturity may apply in the case of bonds, for like 20-year bond, 10-year bond, those. So the registrar is aware of who the real current shareholder is to be paid that dividend.
This actually follows the enactment of the Gambia Market and Security Bill 2021.
Yes, Capital Market
exactly,
and
yes,
Securities.
2021. Yeah. What have you had to do since it was launched? It was enacted.
We've had to do a number of things, and I'm glad that you've asked. The first step that we took was to seek the approval of the Honorable Minister of Finance and Economic Affairs to operate this market within the central bank. It is very important that we are doing this because you are well aware that if we were to create a full-fledged independent company to operate outside the bank, the cost would be enormous, possibly. But the central bank is kind enough to incubate this project, similar to what we did when we created the Financial Intelligence Unit, for instance, and it later went its way. Central Bank has been really expert in this for development purposes, creation of institutions. Another institution that the Central Bank created is the GAM Switch, which is now growing into a national institution. So the creation of this market, the design is such that we have three main entities within the Central Bank, or departments, or institutions. But one of them is actually an incorporated company. That is the exchange. Okay. This is the actual capital market itself, the exchange. The other two are the Securities and Exchange Commission, which is the regulatory arm of the market, and then the Central Securities Depository. Let me just give a brief of the role of each one of these. Let me start with the exchange. This is where customers or investors will go and trade. They go and declare their pledge or their interest in buying or interest in selling. If you are selling shares of company A, for instance, and I'm interested in buying shares of the same company A, that is where we meet and trade, if our prices agree. If I'm offering to buy at $10, but you are offering to sell at 9, it means I can buy. But if you are offering to sell at 10, I'm offering to buy at 9, we cannot strike a deal because I'm offering to buy at a lower price, and therefore you own your asset. You are at liberty to sell or not. So that's where the exchange is. Traditionally, and in every country, exchanges are actually incorporated companies, and we have followed the requirements of the law and created this company called the exchange. I'm answering still to the question of what we have done since enactment to now.
Yes.
The second institution that we've created is the Securities and Exchange Commission, which is located at Supervision House, Kairaba Avenue. The commission, there is a head of the commission. The commission has now issued license to both the exchange and the Central Securities Depository. Even though we are operating within the same central bank, but we have to be compliant with the law. Okay. So the Securities and Exchange Commission has issued license to both the exchange and the CSD. And the other things that the SEC has done, that the Securities and Exchange Commission, is to design all the relevant forms, come up with the regulations that will flow from the Capital Market and Securities Act, and a host of other requirements that were prepared in readiness for the launch. And finally, the Central Securities Depository. This is where clearing and settlement actually takes place. Okay. If trade happens at the exchange, transactions go to Central Securities Depository where net settlement takes effect. I'm referring to net settlement. Let me explain it. This is if you go to the market and you buy, let's say, 100,000 worth of investment, but you are an active trader, you also sell, let's say, 50,000 worth. You are buying 100,000, you are selling 50,000. It means you need to pay just 50,000 because you had already, there is this netting that takes place through the real-time gross settlement system that the central bank deployed some years ago. So if I were asked the question, how much preparation went into this before the launch, there is a lot that we can talk about the whole evening. And we are riding on the platforms that the central bank created all these years. The modernization of the payment system, which took place around 2012 to now, has really been a game changer. And this is what the platform, the capital market platform, is also going to ride on. Hence the decision to locate the Central Securities Depository within the banking department of the central bank. And there is a reason for this, because then the clearing and settlement would not, it would be seamless, purely seamless. And should there be a time when the private sector actually take over this market, I am hoping that they will still leave the Central Securities Depository within the central bank, that area, because clearing and settlement is already taking place. Even for the transactions of commercial bank, that's the money market that we referred to earlier, their transactions are settled through that Central Securities Depository, which is already serving the treasury bills market and other transactions within the country, entire financial system.
Like I said, I mean, this is the first time that the Gambia is having this capital market. I mean, what do you think are the conditions for a successful implementation of this capital market?
Of a market? The conditions are, usually you would refer to the enabling environment for a market, and there's also what we call market development drivers. But the enabling environment, for instance, this is looking at having in place appropriate legislation, at least appropriate macroeconomic environment, and also the economy should be attractive to investors. So the market development drivers includes the ability to attract investors, of course, then rolling out a number of financial instruments so that investment portfolio is diversified. Investors have a number of options to choose from. So once all these are in place, definitely the market will be ready to go. And the payment system I referred to earlier, those are all measures that are actually creating the readiness for this market. In addition to the fact that we've had a stable economy all these years, and in terms of inflation in the sub-region, we've been reporting the lowest, especially of late, where there's been near galloping inflation in some of our neighboring countries, and we thank God. Although we've had a bit of inflation, obviously for those... Sorry?
I say we're just now, you know, around 13.
No, it's around 18.
13,
but put it in context, and it is quite clear that we've done really remarkably well. And so the enabling environment and the market development drivers, those are usually issues that you look at to say we are ready for this kind of market. And indeed, those have been put in place, like I described earlier. The fact that as an economy, we've had stability, we've had a number of payment system platforms rolled out, preparing for this market. Because for a market to be liquid and active trading to take place, you need investors here, but you need also the infrastructure, the platforms, the financial system. There are a number of key roles that and I will come to roles because I don't know how much time we are still having here. The roles are important. I need to really come to those. But the key roles that the commercial banks play, for instance, as market makers or discount houses, and maybe underwriting the issuance of instruments. These are all very important roles that commercial banks play. And the best way to put it is to say, despite the seeming differences in functionality between money market and capital market, they actually interface. There are a lot of synergies between them. They interface and support each other, because the banks that will provide the underwriting role, the settlement role, for instance, the market making role. And this is like buying instruments in bulk, for instance, when they are issued in the capital market, and disposing them on a retail basis, so that the issuer, that is the companies that are looking for capital, will get immediate funds to go and invest in their activity while not having to wait for too long. The financial institution that bought them or did the underwriting would gradually retail them off and be able to still generate their income from it. So these are very...
You said, I mean, the Gambia is doing well and with an inflation of 18%.
Yes.
How are we doing well? 18%?
No. Don't get me wrong, and don't go there. That was not
exactly. Yes. Just for you to clarify, because you mentioned it, and there's perhaps someone watching it saying, "But how could you say 18% is?"
No. I just gave you an example to say. Right. You asked for market development drivers. Yes. I refer to stability, which I said we do have. Okay. I said we are doing well in that context, and it's regretted that inflation has been pretty high in a number of countries in the sub-region. It was in that context I referred to the fact that ours is still 18. Okay. I think, I don't want to name countries. There is one at 43% in the sub-region. There is 23. Those are really up there. It was in that context. You know, when you compare like to like, you say, well, this is lower than this. That's the point I'm making. Right. And it's not to say that we are celebrating 18%, but this is in that context that I spoke. Thank
you very much, Dr. Paul Mendy, who is the Deputy Governor too at the Central Bank of the Gambia. He's our guest on State of Affairs. Today we are discussing, I mean, the new capital market launch in the Gambia for the first time. We will go with a short break, and when we return, discussion continues. Do stay tuned.
The future is now with QCell's 5G network. Experience speeds like never before with our new 5G Rocket Fixed Internet plan. Get speeds from 10 Mbps to 100 Mbps. Your 5G-enabled devices. Walk into QCell headquarters to get one of our 5G routers and experience the true feeling of 5G. Only with QCell. QCell brings you the future. Tech, innovation, incredible speed. The future is now. For more information, call our customer care on 111. QCell, Sunyabus. We innovate, others follow. Terms and conditions apply.
Hello viewers, welcome back from the short break. You are watching QTV, the Gambia's first private TV station, and we are broadcasting from our studios here on Kairaba Avenue. My name is Alu Sise, your host for your weekly State of Affairs program. Our guest this week is Dr. Paul Mendy, Deputy Governor to Central Bank of the Gambia, and we're discussing the capital market being launched in the Gambia for the first time by the Vice President Mohamed B.S. Jallow. We'll now take a look and then go beyond the Gambia and look at, capital market in the sub-region. This is the first time the Gambia is introducing such, the challenges. What are the lessons that we can learn from other countries that have tried the capital market before? Let's now go into the issue of the capital market in the sub-region. I know you didn't jump out of the blue moon and establish it. You must have, taken some understudy in other countries that have already launched or
before I really would like to run through some of the roles that, because the Honorable Governor the other day made a call for the public to come out and support this market. And I drew comparison earlier on to the commodities market, which is usually government will create a market like Albert Market and people trade there. This is what has happened here. So the instruments to be traded, the Honorable Governor's call, if you allow me, if I could just go into a bit of the details of the nature of institutions that could be created with a view to having their participation in the market. Fund managing firms, for instance, these are small companies, but nonetheless very important because they would help investors that are not really that savvy in terms of investment analysis and understanding the concept of investment. They would help them in managing their funds. So the investor could come forward and lodge their funds with such fund management companies, and they would assist them manage, of course, based on their terms and conditions. Investors could say, I want my money to go into manufacturing investment or into agriculture, or maybe even for Islamic Sharia reasons, I don't want my funds into activity X. Okay. And now with the environment issues, investors could give those instructions. So fund management companies will be able to assist them in doing that. There are also the accountants, the lawyers, and so forth. These are, for instance, capital market solicitors, for instance. These are companies or law firms that would be assisting the companies, the issuers, in preparation of prospectus, preparation of legal documents, incorporation, memorandum and articles of association, and so forth. So the number of numerous roles within the market that are referred to as capital market operators. Yeah? The others include, I mentioned registrar earlier. Registrars would be those that capture the details of actual share owners at any given point, and they will be able to then channel dividend to them when the companies pay dividend. There is also the underwriters would be firms, institutions, banking institutions, for instance, that would be saying, let's say company A is doing an issue, they would just step in and help them package especially when they combine it with the role of issuing house, they help them package the issuance of equity in the form of an initial public offering, for instance, and be able to do it very professionally on their behalf so that the issuing company would not be struggling too much to do this. Of course, at a minimal fee. There is also, most importantly, in the capital market, one of the key issuers is government. Okay. So government bonds henceforth would be issued, for instance, in the capital market. Why does that matter? Because it gives visibility to the external community outside this country. Because when you float, sometimes you hear of the Euro bonds issued by other countries. These are like international instruments. And we are hoping and praying that we get to a point where we'll be in a position to be able to do those massive issuance of bonds and attracting the foreign investors for that matter. And Gambians in the diaspora, this is an opportunity to really extend the governor's call to them to say, come forward, there are so many roles that could be played within this market in the form of small companies that could be created to perform different types of services, and there are quite a number of them.
Let's now come back to the initial question regarding the capital market development in the sub-region. Like I said, I mean, okay, you didn't just jump and establish this capital market. You must have understood the other countries where they already have this capital market in terms of the progresses they have made, the challenges they have experienced, and of course the innovations.
I want to refrain from when it comes to challenges, which market had which challenges, yeah. But let's generalize it. In Ghana, for instance, when they were establishing their market, just to respond to that question, we must have studied. Of course, we studied. Yeah, okay. In Ghana, for instance, you have one of the challenges you see there is the fact that most of the listed firms are banks. My apologies. Let me not use the name of country. Okay. Let me just say, in some countries in Africa, some of the major listed firms are banks, and someone could argue that these are short-term intermediaries, but they are mobilizing long-term funds, and that could be a problem. There could be a maturity mismatch, but that is not the key thing. The key role of capital market is really for the ability to channel funds to the real sector of the economy. A real sector such as agriculture, mining, and those. So those are the areas that are in need of long-term funds, patient funds, for long-term investment. For instance, agriculture, it will take a number of years before you start getting returns. And this is where you need equity financing. So Nigeria had their market since, I think, 1960. Egypt was in 1888. They had their market. And a number of countries in the sub-region have had their markets immediately after independence. Ghana and Nigeria are good examples of this. In the other West African countries, they have a common capital market in the Ivory Coast, Cote d'Ivoire. All the 8 countries of the CFA zone have a common capital market. It's a regional market. And there the trading, what we do when we meet at the West African Capital Markets Integration Council, they are usually represented by just that single market. So within the sub-region, you have about 5 markets or so. You have Cape Verde has their market, Nigeria, Ghana, Cote d'Ivoire, can't remember the other one. Those are the main markets in the sub-region. And now add Gambia to it.
But we haven't started yet.
No, we have. The commencement of registration is what matters. The registration, listing is a process. It's actually, it requires doing all these forms. There are some governance requirements that have to be met, and those are ongoing. Once you are done with the listing, you move to the next stage of trading. And those are, like I said, we've only been 2 days into this market, and very soon you'll see a difference.
I mean, you've mentioned many countries that have had this market for a quite long time. But then when you look at market capitalization to GDP, it's still low. Why?
No, that is in the region. In the region, yes.
In the region, yes.
That is true to some extent.
I think if you have to compare to other regions,
studies have shown. No, don't be comparing apples and oranges.
But it helps. It helps us to better understand.
You are comparing Ghana to the US or to UK, for instance, who had their markets long ago.
Or even Asia.
Yeah.
Or even Asia.
Even Asia. No, you cannot fail to look at that. Yes, it's necessary. But let's speak to our context. The African markets are usually said to suffer from illiquidity. In other words, inadequate investors coming to participate in the market. But is that a reason to do nothing? Is that a reason to fold our hands? And who will come and develop these countries for us? No one will. No one will ever do that. And until we are seen to be making our own effort to do what it takes to launch such markets and really take our own initiative to launch major projects and raise financing locally, the donors are getting exhausted of throwing money at us, for want of a better word. So really, that question, who else will do it for us? And is doing nothing a solution? It is not, unfortunately. So the truth is, until we are seen to be doing something and somebody only coming to help us, we will not make progress. And that's the reality. So the markets in Nigeria, you may claim that their market capitalization is still a lower percentage of GDP. I'm not sure about that. If they are growing. They are growing because the contribution of the financial sector to our GDP, for instance, in this country, is growing. I think, I can't remember the exact figures, but it's around 20-something%. And it's growing, it's been growing. So the money market has been growing. With financial deepening through the capital market, is going to even grow further. Therefore, the reasons to have this market are enormous, and they are necessary. Without it, tell me who will do it for us? Nobody.
And when you come back home, could you kindly identify 2 or 3 key challenges that you think must be addressed or has already been addressed for an effective implementation of the capital market? Any challenges that you think might be a hindrance to successful implementation of
I
this?
think you are trying to ask me what you consider a difficult question, but it's not a difficult
I know, yeah,
question.
I know.
Whatever you do, even if you are to go to the money market, for instance, there will always be challenges. When there was a launch of a university in this country, the doomsayers will say it will never work.
Yeah.
Gambia was to do a television, they will say it will never work. Even the Gambia itself as a country to exist, and this was 1965, to be created as a country, there were doomsayers who said it will never work.
And that's the same reason why I'm asking this question, so
it's
you can
not going to be
clarify.
viable.
Maybe there are many viewers out there who will be asking the same question.
Disregard all that.
Exactly.
The challenges that we may face would be, it may be slow to attract investors to come, but like I said earlier, it will take Gambians to really invest in ourselves, in our country, before others could find it attractive. And really, the governor's call to mobilize everyone, come out and really let's get this going is very important. So I would encourage people to not really be looking at whether or not it will work. No, that option is not there. We are actually committed to this, and it will definitely work because we have no choice but to really get it working. Otherwise, answer to that question, who will do it for us? And I cannot see that person really that will come forward and just say, bam, these are all the investments you need in this country, take it. We've depended on that assistance for many years, and it's not been really transformative enough. I think we need something that will be transformative in this country and be able to do it ourselves before others continue to see us as really exhibiting confidence in our own economy. It's very important.
And how does, like you said, regionalization impact on the capital market, for example, ECOWAS? Already have African continental free trade.
It's very, very important because if you look at the ECOWAS population, I think 350 million people, if you assume it as creating a market where all these people will participate, I think that's the way. So the Gambia would be open for business, not just for Gambians or Gambians in the diaspora, but for all other investors that are interested. And through some of the meetings that we've had at the West African level, West African Capital Market Integration Council, there is already a platform where investors would come from, say, Ghana to Nigeria. The trade actually took place. You just need to be introduced to the market. So you see, maybe you are interested in the shares of Dangote, for instance, Nigeria. Through an introductory broker, you can actually buy. This is what is happening in the West. We are not reinventing the wheel. The U.S. investor, they will be looking at even the Chinese market, they will be looking at the UK market, and vice versa. And they cross-invest across borders. And this is the aspiration of the sub-region where, through the WACMIC and the WASRA, that is the West African Securities Authority, Regulatory Authority, WASRA, they are going to kind of promote this agenda of integration of our capital markets. And until you have your own market, there is nothing to integrate. So you only integrate when you have your own market, and this is what we are trying to do. I'm glad that the authorities in this country have enacted the law since 2021, and it is its implementation that has commenced. We are hoping that the market will grow quickly and be able to mobilize enough funding for all the institutions that will come forward. And in this country, sometimes we play this game of wait and see. I'm sorry, the first movers would get the advantage, because first mover advantage is there, where you put forward your shares for sale and they all purchase. And by the time other issuers realize that you are making good capital, you are raising enough funds, they could have maybe been late, because the earlier the better. Come forward and reap all the rewards that are out there, because there is a lot of capital waiting to be tapped, and this is only possible if you have the right platform for it. And this is what the authorities have done in this country.
Does it allow for an ordinary citizen to buy shares in a company?
Yes. It does. In fact, it is for ordinary citizens. Okay. And the other day I told someone we could do it in different ways. You and me could form what we call a mutual fund. Yeah. A mutual fund is a fund that is set up by those that think they do not have enough funds to invest in the market, but you mobilize. Of course, it needs to be registered. It's very important because it has to have legality. Okay. So otherwise, we don't want to have a situation where somebody just mobilize funds on the pretext that they are a mutual fund and then get away with those funds. So that is not what we are talking of. Okay. So real, genuine mutual funds, you could register either with the cooperatives or so. Once they are legally registered and are legally existent, they could invest their funds either through a fund manager, through a brokerage firm, and so forth. So those are some of the ways.
So you kind of conduct a background check on the individual?
Certainly. The Securities and Exchange Commission is there for that. And this is why I said it's a process. Once we launch, the process is now triggered into action so that whoever comes forward, I'm operating at the strategic level. I cannot tell you for sure how many are already registered or not within these 2 days of the market existing. So the market is open for business. We appeal to the populace to come forward and take responsibility. So to answer to that question of whether individuals can invest, yes. If you are familiar with the way the primary market, this primary dealer concept that was introduced some years ago for treasury bills, meaning if you want to invest in treasury bills, you go through a bank. The bank is actually doing a role that is referred to as primary dealer, but it's actually a broker-dealer also. You recognize them as broker-dealer, meaning they would strike the deal on your behalf. Okay. You just lodge funds with them and go home. You say, I want to put my money in treasury bills. They are managing your funds for you. They are effectively a fund manager for you for the treasury bills market. They are also a broker-dealer on your behalf in the treasury bills market. That concept can be extended to the, and if you apply it in the context of a capital market, they are all financial instruments, only that one is short-term, the other one is long-term. So the banks are effectively already doing this and can be extended to the capital market so that you go to your institution and say, I want to invest in the shares of, let's say, company X. I don't want to name names. or on QTV.
Or Q Group. Huh?
Exactly. Q Group. So you need to be listed then. Once you tell your institution, you instruct your fund manager, it could be a bank in this context, that I want to invest in this. They would locate the market, determine when to buy on your behalf. Perhaps they determine when prices are slightly lower, they buy. So because they need to be really ingenious in doing this on your behalf so that you make enough return.
I know we're running out of time. I mean, at the launching, I heard the minister said, I mean, despite the fact that we have 13 commercial banks in this country, it is extremely difficult to get credit, especially even for those who are just startup, who are small businesses. Why is this the case?
You are deviating. You are going to some other conversation that
exactly.
I would rather not discuss credit here. Let's exhaust capital market because I really want people to understand it.
But it's related. But you are constantly talking about banks, banks.
The banks, and that's the money market.
We don't have that
the
many
banks are money
banks.
market. You are saying that they are not lending enough?
Not really.
Yeah, but with
high interest rate.
Yeah, the interest rates is a function of many things. Okay. But if you look at it, the money market has served us so many years. Okay. And let's not really castigate them. Let's not throw them out there. But to say we have a new capital market and they are going to complement each other, both the money and capital market. Like I did say earlier on, that you need banks to be underwriting in the capital market. And you need the banks also need to raise capital. Even they themselves raise capital from the capital market. And so there is a lot of interface between these two types of two arms of the financial system. Financial system is made up of money and capital market.
And finally, I mean, where do you see this capital market after 5 to 10 years down the line? Yes.
I see it growing.
Okay.
I see it flourishing. I see it integrating with the sub-region. I see it having increased activity, particularly with the ability of now our Gambians in the diaspora to reach out and issue instructions to maybe family members to invest on their behalf. That is already going on in the treasury bills market, for instance. That could be extended, and indeed will be extended to the capital market. And really, the sky is the limit, because I see this market growing and truly representing the barometer of performance of this economy, because it will get to a point where a capital market index could be computed, and you see it rising and falling, and usually that is considered a barometer, because if the economy is doing well, sometimes, most of the time, share prices rise. If it is not doing well, it could fall. But that's not the only reason why it rises or falls. There are other considerations. And unfortunately, we are getting to the end of this conversation
Exactly.
because investors really rely on information to really determine whether or not to buy or sell. And it's all demand and supply in the market. But investors rely purely on information and publicly available information, privately available information, and past information, that the performance of the bond itself or the equity will determine the direction of investment and therefore the price of the instrument. So the number of considerations are put into play, really, with a view to whether or not the market will grow, but it will grow.
Thank you so much.
That's what I see.
Yes, I know it's quite interesting, but thank you so much, Mr. Mendy, for coming on the program. And that's Dr. Paul Mendy, who is the Deputy Governor to Central Bank of the Gambia. He was our guest on the State of Affairs this week. We were discussing the capital market, which is launched in the country for the first time. And then we thank you so much, sir, for coming on the program.
Thank you. Thank you.
A special thanks to Suleiman Dabo, the communications officer at the Central Bank of the Gambia, for really helping in facilitating this great interview with Deputy Governor too. It's very hard to get them, but I mean, Suleiman really did a quite fantastic job. And viewers, well, with that, on behalf of the entire team here at QTV, we thank you so much for watching. Do join us next week. Until then, bye-bye for now. Ciao.